Good morning, everybody. The diehards, day 3, still here. Woo! So we just have 2 sessions this morning. One that we moved from yesterday, and I think they are ready to go. I talked to them. Yep. And I have the pleasure of introducing you to a group here in Nevada that I wanted to introduce you to, because I want you to see some of the work that can also be done within your Department of Corrections. And I know for some of you that do federal funding, you can't necessarily go in there, but there's a lot of reentry opportunities to be thinking about and things that we can, talk about, more as time goes on. But I want to introduce Robin Fees. She is the Director of Substance Use for the Nevada Department of Corrections. She oversees all of our men's prisons and our women prison, which, fortunate for me, is located right here on the north end of town, and their minimum custody on the south end of town. So we both 25 minutes away, so we spend a lot of those. And then Paloma Rivera is her associate that works inside the prison with our girls. So they're going to talk a little bit about what we do in terms of mental health and how nutrition has played into that. So thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone hear us well? Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to go over, we have way more slides than time. So just some quick information, I'll skip some of them. For Nevada, we have just over 10,000 inmates in custody, just over 900 or 800 for our female population. We struggle with staffing vacancies like majority of the departments nationwide at this point. We're at 32% when we last pulled it, and we still have to operate 24/7. So as far as partnerships, it is critical, especially now post-COVID, to have people from the community coming in offering resources. I like to say I don't know where the folks are, social media influencers. I don't know where the people have gone. But for our mission, we hold steadfast nonetheless. Our goal, be it the department or substance use disorder programs, is to provide evidence-based programming to target risk domains that put people at risk to return to the criminal justice system. We want to treat individuals with respect while they're in our custody. This just shows, as substance use, we go by what research is saying is leading in the field of criminal justice programming for adults. And we rely on University of Cincinnati Corrections Institute to really provide that assessments to show how closely we're following principles. All of this to say, from 2012 to 2017 and present day, we've went from low adherence to evidence-based programming to high adherence, the national average being moderate adherence. We also, as part of residential substance abuse treatment, we have federal grant funds through RSAT, through BJA. We get assessed from them as well, and this shows that we are above the national average in majority of the domains that we can have control over. The domains that scored lower are helping people re-enter into the community, setting them up with insurance, setting them up with providers, safe housing. When it comes to substance use disorder programs, we have 3 current programs. Up north is our Phoenix program in Carson City for our males. Trust is our male program in Indian Springs, more in the southern part of Nevada. And then our women's population is right here in Las Vegas. We have 2 programs that we run in there, Stars and New Light. One is a longer term program, one is a shorter term program. Women tend to come into custody with either a lot of time on their sentence or a very short amount of time. So we learned very quickly that we needed to create a program that targeted those with shorter amount of time. When it comes to gender responsive programming, this is where you'll see people kind of fall off. A lot of things that we do in the world is based off of male models, but as we know, women are different than men. Shocking. But research is very slow to pick that up, and funding is even slower to follow that. So when it comes to gender responsive programming and principles, the biggest domain is understanding that women are different, and what brings them in and out of custody looks very different than that of a man. And so what we target in custody should represent that. For example, for you specifically with nutrition and with mental health work, that is a higher probability of having those as risk domains for women versus men. but the programming is not necessarily there to support it. So part of where we're at now that I find exciting is the research is starting to show, okay, women are different than men, we get it, great, but where are the pockets of brilliance that are happening? And if we all pool our ideas together, what more work can we do? When it does come to funding, when you do introduce a program to any Department of Corrections, the focus will always be the men, because you saw our numbers. We have way more men in custody than we do women. And if we have limited resources, you have to really make the argument of why would we be targeting women only in this case. When it comes to our programming actual physical space, the top picture is a general population unit that's currently closed down. If there were women housed in that, it would look pretty much the same. Our unit is this bottom picture. And you'll see a lot of color. So part of the gender responsive domains is that people don't come to prison to be treated like crap. They come to prison as a punishment. And so while in our custody, we need to create an environment that will help deal with the trauma work. We need to be trauma informed. We need to be trauma responsive. We can't expect women to do the work when they are constantly being re-traumatized and re-triggered. So that comes as easy as having color and pictures. It's as easy as not flicking the lights when it's recall time. It's being aware that when we yell out announcements, that can be re-triggering. So instead, we pool the women and get their feedback about what would be different ways for us to give you announcements, because this is basically a gym setting with 120 beds in it. So there is no privacy for the women. There is no privacy for staff. So how do we get your attention if us screaming out, attention community, can be re-traumatizing for people? One thing that Rivera can talk about is they want to pilot a bell little system with that.
Yeah, so I went to a Covington, and so there they talked about how trauma is, you know, noise and all these things around, just depending on also the setup of your offices, like what you have in your office can be re-traumatizing for them. So they did this meditation bell that I thought was really how they got our attention, was more level than having them yell to us, telling us like, hey, listen up. So I really wanted to implement that. And I did talk about it with the community and they really liked that. So we're going to try to see if we can pilot that.
This is an example of what a bed would look like. When it comes to our program, one of the things that officers will struggle with is that our women come with a lot of stuff. We do 12 months of programming, so the workbooks alone are a lot. But we do a lot of artwork. We do a lot of team building. We have behavioral contingency incentives that they can earn. So they are given and earn a lot more than what a general population person would have. And for custody, that can be a struggle. They're still expected to be in compliance. The feelings is another example of artwork. And then we have a structure board. So in a standard therapeutic community, a structure board, crews are very common to have. Research is now showing more of a modified therapeutic community, and some of the changes that should happen with more specialized population, which criminal justice would count as well as severely mentally ill individuals would count as. And so we'll get into that in a minute. But a structure board, again, it's a big gym, 120 beds. That's a big ship to keep moving in the right direction. So from cleanliness to organization to how we greet new women moving into the program to the schedule. Every single person in the dorm has a party of that, including staff, in order to keep us all moving forward in the right direction. It also gives them job skills because they are leading a crew of 5 or 10. And so if you come into custody having no job history, you're leaving with more content to put on a resume. Staff offices are at the back of that gym, and it doubles as our group room. So you see the artwork is still in there. Artwork is left up to each staff member. And our groups will be 10 to 12 women per setting. So our goal is to enhance intrinsic motivation. We do that by motivational interviewing. We have moved to an empowerment community model versus a therapeutic community model. And what that simply means is a standard therapeutic community is kind of like a catch you did wrong. But for us, we're trying to catch folks that are doing right. What are your strengths? What are your abilities? How can we capitalize on that? I've already got the 2-minute mark, guys. We're gonna fly by. Here is our current programming. The green domains at top are criminogenic risk domains, very much a male model driven. However, the research does support that that can be and is predictive in women's populations. The pink is gender responsive domains. So our desire at our women's program is to target both, because we do have women coming through that would follow more in the criminogenic risk need model. More of the criminal behavior drives first and everything else comes second. Majority of our population would fall under the gender responsive principles because of trauma, because of dysfunctional family relationships, because of partner relationships. That tends to be what leads women in and out of custody. We do behavioral contingencies where we'll target behavior. They can earn incentives. The women have a say in the incentives. The ones in blue are the ones that are specific to our women's population. All of it, of course, needs warden approval. But that is another example of gender responsive functioning, where every woman in our program would need different kind of hair products or makeup or nail polish, which throws some people off because that's not right. You shouldn't do that if they're in custody. But again, they have already been punished. Their punishment is to be removed from society for a period of time, not to further be disrespected while in custody. So if we can create an environment where somebody's trauma comes down as far as symptomology popping off, this is one way of that. We can do better work long term. When it comes to engaging ongoing natural support, we rely on a variety of community partners to do that, to come in and do things that we cannot do. We don't have staffing to do. And then when it comes to healthy steps to freedom, more specific to this population, every program that comes through the Department of Corrections has to go through the program review committee. That simply means that we have to vet every program to make sure it's appropriate for our population. And we do that by people presenting have to fill out obviously forms about what you're doing, what's the curricula, give copies of the curricula, but more so research tied to that. Why is this specific program appropriate for really impacting change with this current population? We did pre-screening with Healthy Steps to Freedom and Dr. Lindsay's team. I think we screened like 500 plus women walking around the facility to really make sure that who is put into the group are women that really need it. And so we also have moved to have that screening added at our intake. So every woman that comes into custody will also fill that out. So the population and the waiting list will continue to grow. But that way, Dr. Lindsay and her team can really be informed on who they put in the groups with the limited space that we have, making sure we target the women with the highest risk score for disordered eating as well as the shortest out date. And then some client statements just from recent groups that they've learned carbs are not the enemy. Yay. That they have increased and changed their body image, that I'm not fat. I understand muscle weighs more. And quality of sleep was another one that really popped up a lot with client feedback, that they were just blown away with how much sleep can improve your health. We need partners. Your state, your Department of Corrections need partners. I will say it is very hard to find an open ear in Department of Corrections. It's not exactly the most welcoming place, but that's the nature of the business. And so you have to be diligent and continue to push through. It might take you 20 calls, but you will find that person. Because I'm telling you, especially when it comes to healthy eating, the women struggle with that. They don't have control over what they can be served through chow. And on canteen or coffee shop, what they buy is very high sugar, high processed meals. All of that becomes a higher level decision to change out what they have access to buy, but that's part of our job too, is to advocate for that. So I'll stop there. Questions for us? That was very fast.
Thank you. So we'll open it up to questions. I just wanted to make sure you guys understand. So this whole unit that she was showing you is a unit within the prison. So the rest of the units are pretty much those tables in the middle and, you know, cells one after another. This is a unit they get to do very special because these are people for mental health and substance use treatment. And it's voluntary, right? They voluntary go in?
Yeah,
I mean,
we don't, in this state, there's no mandated programming.
Yeah.
So we are moving towards case planning. That's a whole nother conversation, but the sentence structure, we have indeterminate sentencing right now. So there was a law that just passed that will turn to a little bit more of determinate sentencing. With that will be case planning. Nonetheless, there will be a certain number of hours that everybody has to program based on their risk assessment, and that will be their responsibility. So we would expect to see an increase, but yeah, we don't have mandated.
And the reason we started doing the screening is because people would sign up because it is one of their meritorious credit programs. So it cuts time off their sentence. So people would sign up for the program because they like it and they got, but then we decided we need to screen because the high risk people weren't going in. And, you know, this isn't just to help you get out early. This is a really, what are your needs? So.
And a lot of the times when somebody is struggling with body questions, disordered eating habits, they're typically not the ones that are like, hey, I need help. So the screenings was so important to really get the data to identify who it is. And then also when we do assessments, when the mental health team does assessments, that they are further identifying women that maybe weren't comfortable answering the questions on the survey, but have some symptoms that pop off that would suggest it would be a good fit.
So she says, where are those brilliant pockets? Those brilliant pockets are right here with people with really good background and to be able to serve your communities. You guys have any questions, comments?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm Cassandra Nguyen from University of California, Davis. I'm curious to hear, in the very last part of your presentation, you quickly mentioned that the foods that are available for purchase are pretty nutrition poor. I'm curious how modifiable that is. So what you spoke about a lot sounds like a lot of direct education, and I'm curious if there's room for growth or change in kind of policy systems and environments related to nutrition.
Yeah, the department just changed their vendor for culinary. And so that includes vegetables and fruit. The problem with the last vendor was that the portion sizes were so small, especially in our male population, that we were starting to have a lot of resistance towards that. For the female population, as far as changing what's available on canteen or coffee shop, it would come at the director level and the deputy director level. And it is a big part of working in corrections is really having your list of dreams, identifying, because directors and deputy directors do come and go. That's just part of the business. Wardens come and go. So we are constantly assessing whomever is in that position, what is their goals, what's important to them, and what off of our dream list can we match up to that. And so until we find somebody who has a passion for that, that will be a fight, because the response we get is, that's above my pay grade. Well, it's not above somebody's pay grade. So who is that person? The other thing that we really target is the clothing. The fact that women are still having to buy men cut clothing is baffling to me in 2023. But until, again, we have a whole list of things that we're continually advocating. We're simply trying to match what is your desire right now as a leader and what can we squeeze into that.
So we have time for one more question while our next presenter is making their way up.
Does any part of the programming address mothering, parenting, and reunification with children?
We use Parenting Inside Out, so you could share a little bit about that program. For family reunification, we have no aspect for that. There are different volunteers that will come in that do a little bit of that, but that's another track that could easily be revamped and really honed in. But Parenting Inside Out is the program we use to target specifically women in custody. How do you mother from there? On the flip side, when it comes to the male population, Inside Out Dads is the curricula we use that targets specifically men incarcerated who are fathers. How do you father from behind the walls?
Is Utah still here? Utah? Yeah. Where are you? Oh, there you are. So Utah is doing some really good with their Department of Corrections and doing nutrition and working with the eating pathology. So good place to jump in and get involved with what they're doing. But if you guys, in any of your states, you guys can come on up. If in any of your states, if you want to work with her, she mentioned that it's hard to get in because going through the wardens doesn't work, but going through the mental health and substance use, you got to find the champion in your state. And we can help you, maybe
Yep.
even Ms.
Yeah.
Peace knows some of the folks that in your state. So yeah, I really encourage
Thank
you. It's
you.
an area that's really kind of up and coming, and we need to get more extension people working in their local states with that. So thank you.